This is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Update with Tom Sullivan, exclusively on ASBN.com.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Welcome into the U.S. Chamber Small Business Update. Although small business owners have been concerned about inflation, it looks like optimism is on the rise. According to the third quarter MetLife U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Index, joining me now to dive deeper into this optimism thing that we're talking about right now, as well as insights from the recently concluded Co100 event in D.C., is Tom Sullivan, the Vice President of Small Business Policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Tom, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And optimism, everybody's feeling a lot better about 2.5% inflation rather than 8.5%, right?
Well, Jim, it would be hard for someone like me and you who advocate for small business every day to be anything but optimistic. So,
That's right.
Yes, there's plenty of room for optimism. However, I got to be careful. It would be wrong to say that inflation has been fixed. It still is the top concern for small business, and it has been for close to 2 years. So we're not out of the woods yet.
Right.
I think there's plenty of room for optimism. What you mentioned in our latest MetLife and U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Index is that small business owners are expecting a post-election bump. That post-election bump is going to be in revenue and sales, but what is not known is how much is inflation going to eat away at that bump. And we don't know, but there's reason for optimism.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And when you say post-election, well, is that pretty much regardless of who wins the White House?
It is. So, Jim, it is. And I'm glad you said that. We don't take a position on the president race, but
Right.
we do see what businesses do immediately before it. Right now, we're in a little bit of a pre-election pause. We see a slowdown in business-to-business transactions as well as business-to-consumer transactions. That's not unusual. Happens every 4 years. It's really a question of how soon before the election this pause starts to happen.
Okay.
But we do see that pause is immediately followed by some optimism for increased sales.
Okay, yeah. And that makes sense. I think there's been a lot of pent-up concern, so to speak, over the way things are. But once that election is done, regardless of who wins the White House, I think there might be a sigh of relief that at least that part of this process is finished, right? And we can move on and get back to business.
You know, it's really neat to see the views of small businesses leading up to the election. And, you know, we talk about concern or frustration or anxiety. But there is one thing that really shone through our latest survey, and that is that over 70% of small businesses are actually more dialed into this election than 4 years ago. So they're paying attention. I mean, Jim, this isn't a surprise to you and me,
right? But
small businesses are hyper focused on what's going to happen during the election because there's a lot at stake.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And we've talked about this before, but I often ask you, is this a good time to open up a small business? And your answer is usually yes. It's always a good time to open up a small business, but it really is. I mean, that at the end of the day, these are good times. I mean, we've gotten inflation at least somewhat under control at 2.5%. I think the target is actually 2%, so we're not far from that. I even see gas prices dropping. Obviously, interest rates are continuing to come down. The Fed's talking about another rate cut again in November. So things are at least starting to get back to somewhat normal status, right?
Yeah, they are. I mean, far be it from us to ever say that this isn't a good time to start a small business. But I think you lay out the environment very well. And, you know, no time was it better for you and I to share some time together during the Co100 celebration. This is our annual celebration of the best small business. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I came away from that week, away from that night with this just incredible optimism and really an admiration of all these small business owners who risked everything to make that leap and be their own boss.
That's right. So, Tom, for some of the viewers that are not as familiar with the Co100 as we are here at the show, and obviously you are there at the Chamber, talk to us about what the event is all about.
Well, sure. So every year we put out an application for people to be named the top small business in America by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. This year, we had a record-breaking thousands of applicants. And out of those thousands of applicants, we actually chose the best in 10 categories and then crowned the grand prize winner. And every one of them were incredible. I think one thing that's a little bit different this year is that this Co-100 has 100 small businesses that really are coming together as a community. And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, we are going to be celebrating that community for the next 12 months till we name the next top American small business. So I'm happy to kind of dive into some of those award winners just to share their stories. But that's the process. It is an 11-month process for us. So
Wow.
our next step is kicking off the new Co-100 for 2025 shortly.
I bet. So yeah, let's jump right in. Talk to us about some of the winners in the different categories as well.
Well, sure. Let's just lead up to the grand prize winner. I'm not going to go through all of the 10 categories, but I do want to point out one or two. One is the community leader, and that is this company called Glassy Baby. I'm not sure if you remember.
I did. Yes, I had the opportunity
yeah.
to meet that woman, and she was her story is fascinating.
So the woman you're referring to is Lee Rhodes, and she's out of Seattle, Washington.
Right.
And you're right, her story is amazing. Here is a cancer survivor who, in the middle of the toughest times of her life, was given joy through a simple glass motif,
Right.
A little tiny glass piece. And when she reflected on that very difficult time, she said, I want to provide these glass motifs for people who are in similar situations.
Right.
And Jim, I mean, her growth story is amazing because she really, really hit a nerve in a very positive way. She now has the largest glass blowing operation in the United States, in Montana.
Wow.
33 employees making these beautiful little glass motifs. She's planning on doubling the size of that factory throughout 2025. And having her on stage tell her story brought tears to me and to everybody.
There's no question. Yeah.
Everybody who you and I were with during that celebration. So
that's right.
When we talk about community, I think Lee and her company, Glassy Baby, really tell us what community means. And making a profit and being profitable shouldn't be a bad term.
That's
and
right.
Not only is she giving back, I think that she has over 22% of her profits go back into charities.
She mentioned they gave away $15 million so far in her 20 years in business. $15 million. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money to think of what we think of as, oh, well, that's really a neat thing to have.
Yeah.
And then to step back and look at the financial success and the purpose success that her company represents is something that we're proud of and we're proud to celebrate.
That's right. That's right. And then talk to us about the winner of the $25,000 award that you all gave. That was another great story.
Yeah. So you're referring to Elaine Buxton, who runs a company called Confero. So Confero is a secret shopper company, and she's based in Cary, North Carolina. I mean, her story says so many things. I mean, first, her leadership in the Cary, North Carolina Chamber of Commerce, something we're really, really proud of. But the fact that here is a woman who took over the company from her mom.
Yeah.
And just kind of blew the doors off of expectations.
Yep.
Has been running it since the company was started, I think in 1986.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at Confero, which is a mystery shopper business, one of the things that's so cool is how large business, like Coca-Cola is one of their corporate clients.
Sure.
How large business and small businesses work together.
That's right. It's a good point.
Yeah, to benefit the business ecosystem. And
That's right.
that's what we're about at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So I
That's
couldn't
right.
think of a better award winner. And to see Elaine on stage, who was emotional, had kind of a hard time keeping it together
Yeah.
when she was awarded the $25,000 gigantic check, really, really brought everybody joy and will serve as an inspiration for a lot of
That's right.
entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs who are thinking about making that leap.
That's right. And I asked her just after she received that check and congratulated her. I said, so what are you going to do with the money? And she said, I think I'm going to come up with a program to give back to all of our associates with this money. And I thought that was pretty cool. There are a lot of people might say, well, my husband and I or my wife and I are going to go on a trip. But in this case, she said, no, we're going to come up with a plan to divvy that up and get that back to the associates as well. So.
Jim, this award, you just nailed a key part of this awards program. I'm not sure if you were able to spend any time with an award winner from 2021, TJ and Hadley Douglas. They run a company called Urban Grape out from where I grew up, just outside of Boston, Massachusetts.
Yes. Amazing.
So
amazing.
They took their $25,000 prize and actually started a foundation that brings the vintner industry into the world of people of color.
Yeah,
there is a tremendous lack of people with color in the vintner, in the wine and alcohol business.
Right.
And they turned that prize into an actual program. I think they're on their 5th cohort now of professional wine experts. Wow. We're going through a year-long program. And, whether it's giving back to your employees, having a mission, giving money to charity, or starting a foundation, those are classic examples of how small businesses operate every day. And when they get something, whether it's profit or a prize, they put it right back into their mission, right back into their business.
That's right. The stories are so inspirational. We have so many of them that will be posted here on ASBN.com over the next coming weeks. And so I invite everybody to check those out. And I know you're going to like what you see because every single one of those stories is so inspirational. It's funny. I asked a number of them that I had the opportunity to interview. I said, so at what point in time did you know that the business was off and running and you could sleep well at night and you didn't have anything to worry about? They all gave the same answer. We're not there yet. Even for those companies that might have been in business 10 or 20 years, they still run it. They run their businesses like a startup. They go in every day and they work to the bone. And none of them really felt as though they could say, okay, we're good. We don't have to, innovate. We don't have to be constantly, focused on what the competition is doing. And I think that's so true with all entrepreneurs. I know I'm that way. You just can't rest on your laurels. You gotta stay out there. You gotta stay in the game. Be competitive, right?
Well, Jim, you actually captured it really well. There's no resting on their laurels for small business owners. And one of the great parts about last week was taking a group of small businesses who I work with on our Small Business Council up to Capitol Hill. They talked with you with a Capitol in the background.
That's right. It was
and
great.
they had a choice. They could tour around Washington, D.C. before the big gala dinner, or they could go up to Capitol Hill, meet with congressional staffers, and talk with the importance of a pro-growth tax policy.
Yeah.
And that's what they chose to do.
That's right.
And so that kind of nervous energy, that entrepreneurial drive, you're right. I think the downside is it doesn't allow for much sleep. but the upside, though, is this amazing energy to give back, to be involved, and to make the business environment better for future generations.
No question about it. And the work that you guys do at the Chamber on behalf of small businesses doesn't go unnoticed. Many of the people that I spoke to said, the Chamber was right there at the core of all of this. And you guys are fighting the good fight every day for small business owners on Capitol Hill. And that's so vitally important. It's important for businesses that are listening. Join your local chamber, but also join the U.S. Chamber, because these men and women are out there on your behalf, making sure that you can do business free of heavy regulations and some crazy laws that are out there that prohibit small businesses from moving ahead. And the U.S. Chamber is right there on the front line fighting the good fight, as I said, every day. So thank you for all that you do for small businesses. And as I said, you can check out so much of the coverage right here at ASBN.com of the Co 100 for that incredible gala and an event that you guys had. So thank you so much for giving us the update. It's great to hear that optimism is on the rise. It makes sense, though, with some of these indicators that are really showing some real promise out there for small business owners, interest rates and gas prices and inflation rates coming down. And it looks like 2025 is going to be just a phenomenal year, regardless of who wins the White House, right?
Well, thank you, Jim. I can't think of a better partner than ASBN in our fight for free enterprise.
Well, thank you very much for that. Thanks for the opportunity. So, Tom Sullivan, Vice President of Small Business Policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us here on the U.S. Chamber Update.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Update with Tom Sullivan.